Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another Babbling Irons match preview. This week, Mike, we are taking on AEK Larnaca in the second leg of the Europa Conference League round of 16. Hopefully, we can get through to the quarterfinals, and yeah, we're going to preview the match, touch base on a few things from the first leg that we could maybe look to exploit or look to improve on, and see if we can take home the win and get through to that quarterfinal. So, Mike, another game in Europe coming up, and before the international break, so we won't actually have a game now until April after this. So it could be, we'll get into the lineups in a bit, but it could be one to maybe play a bit more stronger of a more strong team than perhaps many would have suggested before, if it would have been between a Premier League match. So from last week, we got the 2-0 win. It was quite scruffy. We mentioned in our review it wasn't pretty. It wasn't the best performance, but we got the job done. How different is this leg, do you feel, going to be from that first leg playing at home this time?
Yeah, I think with this leg, in some ways, game is almost done. You can't be completely disrespectful and go into it expecting just to play at half pace and AEK to just roll over. They know they have to come and attack. They know they have to try and win this game to have a chance. So I don't think they're going to be remotely overly defensive. I think they will try and hedge their bets, but ultimately they are going to have to go for it at some point in the game. That could play into our hands. Personally, I'd look to probably play a weakened team. We should again play a B team. I wouldn't be risking the likes of Rice and so on. It's just no point. Just let them have a break before we go into the World Cup. World Cup, before we go into the international break.
Got flashbacks to Christmas, so.
Yeah, I know, yeah. Before we go into the international break, and just give the guys who are on the edge of the squad, just give them that last bit, just say, look, we're going into an international break. On the next game in Southampton, go give me a selection headache.
Yeah.
So go out there and absolutely stomp them into the ground. Go and prove to me you need to be part of my selections and go and prove to me that I'm wrong. That's what Moyes should do. He should challenge his team, but in the right way, in a positive way of challenging, rather than just being, well, you've been crap, you ain't been giving me the right application. I want you to go out there and prove it to me, or I want you to go out there and do it, or otherwise, you're going to prove me right. He can't be that constant battering and beating them with a stick because it's not working this season.
Yeah, I think it has to be. I think we need to go into this with a mixture, because we don't want to become unstuck and then have to kind of try and get back into the game if we concede an early goal and then suddenly they get a second out of somewhere. But I know it's unlikely, but I would be maybe a bit hesitant to play the complete B team, to be honest. If we've got the international break coming up anyway, I think it comes at a nice time, this match, in terms of what Moyes has maybe mentioned about the likes of Scamacca. And it looks like we've got pretty much a fully fit squad other than Fabianski and Kufau still. So there is chances for the likes of Cornet to get more minutes. There's the chances for the likes of Scamacca to get more minutes. And like you mentioned, the likes of Lanzini. Obviously, Downs can't play because he's suspended from the first leg. He got another yellow card. So that again kind of makes me think, well, Rice will probably have to play because we don't have another really holding midfielder to come in other than maybe a youth player. I don't think.
Well, you got Souček can play there. He made his career playing as defensive midfielder for Slavia.
Yeah,
it's Slavia. Just had that.
We haven't seen Moyes kind of play Souček as a whole, as the main defensive midfielder. It's always been, even in Europe, it has been Downs and Lanzini as well next to him if he is playing. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. But in terms of this match, the focus is now shifted away from the Premier League, which maybe to some West Ham fans at the moment is a nice break, but it's still important to remember we still have European football. If we win this, we've got the quarterfinals to come, and the draw will be Friday, so we'll know who we're going to have in the quarterfinal and semi-final in that Friday draw. So there is still an incentive here to put on a good performance, get another win, and maybe use that confidence into the international break where we have a couple of weeks rest, get more players up to speed, the likes of Scamacca, the likes of Cornet, and then we go into that April-May of the season with more expectation of what we can do as a team and more expectation of the likes of Scamacca and Cornet and where they're at in terms of their fitness and overall ability to perform for a longer time on the pitch.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think we need to give the likes of Cornet, Scamacca, Fornals, Lanzini more time on the pitch. This is a great opportunity to do so. The other lads have played a lot of games. Again, I think it's worthwhile to give those guys minutes. Even Cresswell. Obviously, we all know I'm not a fan of his, but again, these players need and deserve to be rotated in for this game. Some of them played in the last one. They weren't exactly amazing, but they did well enough, and they got us through that game. So they should be rewarded with being able to start in this one as well. Scamacca, I think, definitely has to play. I think there was quite a pointed remark from Roberto Mancini saying, he's just come back from an injury. So he understood that he's just come back from an injury, but he's also like, players can't get better unless you play them. So he's kind of making a dig as to, if you want to criticize a player and say he's not giving you not enough or not doing enough, give him the incentive, put him on the pitch. Like, keep hitting them with a rod and then not giving them a carrot isn't going to do anything.
Yeah.
Seeing at the moment, there's a lot of being beaten with the stick to certain players, not enough carrot. So I definitely think that what he now needs to do is to put him on, rest Antonio because of his calves. Again, if you want to play Antonio, but put him right wing. Put him on the wing or put him up top with Scamacca and play a 2 up top.
Yeah.
It's not a game where we need to be worried about, formations in some way. Why not actually go, you know what, this is a great environment for me to test how my team looks with 2 up top. Because at the end of this season, I might have to throw everything into a game and I might have to play with a tandem too. So why not put 2 up top in this game? Do whatever you need to do with that midfield to kind of give you the balance that you feel. See, 4-4-2 is quite well balanced, but it's just noise. You might not want that. So, do something with that balance or work within that confines and maybe just put 2 up top and say, right, I want you both to go out there. I want you to show to me that if I need to utilize you two as a tandem, I can rely on you. Go and show me what you're made of. Go out there and, as I say, stomp them into the ground. Give me a selection headache for the Southampton game. Don't leave me sitting there going, I'm just going to pick my regulars. I need selection headaches. I need to know going into this final piece, we're doing well. And again, just telling the players that he trusts them. He wants them to do well. He wants them to do stuff. As I say, a lot of beating with the stick. There's not enough carrot at the moment, I think, for certain players.
I think this is a gem of a fixture for Moyes because it comes at the perfect time with not having a fixture at the weekend after it, and then we'd have that 2-week break. So again, there is a chance for experimentation, whether that be the formation or personnel, maybe both. We'll see. I don't expect he will do something like 4-4-2 just because of the manager he is, and to some extent at this point of the season, changing him to 4-4-2 is not something we're probably going to do much in the league anyway. So it would be nice to see it, but whether he would use it in the league anyway.
We've had three strikers on the bench, and he still hasn't put 2 up top when we're losing. So
yeah,
it just shows the negativity and the mindset of the manager with these players.
Yeah, exactly, and it's we come to expect at a point now what's going to happen, and I don't think it will be a 4-4-2 in the league at any point. Even though he did play that briefly when he was at West Ham before, but. Kind of touching on this game and looking ahead of what we could do in terms of our lineup and in terms of the personnel. Here's our predicted XI for the match. As you can see, I just cut off at the bottom because of that thing, but it's Areola in goal. Cresswell, Ogbonna, Aguerd, Johnson as the back 4. Again, we'd like to rotate, but it's going to have to be someone like Zuma or Aguerd next to Ogbonna, and I don't think he would necessarily risk playing Zuma 3 times in 1 week, so it will probably be Aguerd again in that right centre-back role. Again, Cresswell and Johnson now look like the kind of rotators of the fullbacks at the moment. And then the midfield, you could maybe argue someone like Paqueta would drop out for, say, someone like Souček. But I just think from Moyes' comments at the weekend in terms of, what he said about needing Paqueta for this season and for the future, with the international break coming up, I feel like he'll probably play this to start off with and then get the job done. And, once we go 1 or 2-0 up, hopefully then he can start to make changes, and there might be, a couple of youth players on the bench. But yeah, I guess there's a few options here. Like we mentioned with Antonio, whether he's back fit, whether he will maybe play on the wing instead of someone like Bowen, and Fornals as well. He could, be one of those that plays instead of Paqueta in midfield, and Benrahma plays out wide. So it's quite difficult to predict, but just because of, we don't have a game after this, and we don't know what Moyes maybe wants to test out, whether Cornet's ready to start, or whether someone like Fornals wants to play in the middle, or Moyes thinks he can play in the middle. We don't know. But I think that'll be pretty much it, maybe barring one or two changes. But what do you think about that, Mike? When you see this lineup, do you think this is quite a, if you saw this in the Premier League, for example, we probably have seen something similar to this in the Premier League before. And, playing it against, no disrespect to AEK Larnaca, but we should be going through pretty comfortably with something like this.
Yeah, we should do. As well as Larnaca played, and I don't think that's unfair to say Larnaca played well, because they did play well. They pressured us well. They got in some good crosses. They sustained pressure with a lot of corners. So it would be disrespectful to say they didn't play well. But the problem is it was a bit of a gulf in quality, and we were able to arguably hold them at arm's length for a majority of the game and play really within ourselves. Now, people will say we played badly. Others will say that we played professionally. Ultimately, we didn't need to step outside of our comfort zone in that game to get the win. So I can understand both sides of the argument and both sides of the coin when people say we didn't play well against Larnaca, and people will say Larnaca are a bad team. They're only a bad team because they didn't convert, is what I would say if you're going to say they're a bad team. But when I look at that, maybe Kehrer probably for Aged at centre-back, potentially, is one of the options. Again, I think that midfield is probably about right, with Rice and Paqueta going in with then Lanzini and Fornals. I would probably think Fornals might start on the right, and I think Cornet might start based on the performance he had against Villa. It being Moyes, it wouldn't surprise me if he acts out at the criticism that he's been getting around Scamacca, and he actually puts Cornet up top. It wouldn't surprise me. It's the type of thing he would do. Because again, I'm not going to give you the carrot, I'm going to give you the stick. That kind of mentality. Now, I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm wrong, and I hope I'm being overly critical on Moyes. I would like to see Cornet start on the left. There's no reason why he can't play 45 minutes. Fornals can play on the right-hand side, and he gets Scamacca up top. I think if you play that midfield three that we've said, and you've got Fornals and also Cornet, I think you'll see the type of player that we want to see in Scamacca, because they'll get really close to him. And the way that we played this weekend with how close Benrahma and Bowen were in terms of playing in that middle, kind of, in those half spaces, it's exactly the way that essentially we've seen Scamacca flourish in Serie A, and when we did that in early stages of the season when he flourished. So I'd like to see Scamacca play. He didn't do much when we played against Larnaca, but again, we couldn't even pass the ball to him. So he was just chasing shadows.
It just felt like a friendly game. Even when we scored the goals, there wasn't really a celebration from the players or anything.
No, it felt, as people said, I think because of the way it's all been, the where we were, the weather and so on, it just kind of made people feel a bit like it was a pre-season friendly, and it was played at that tempo. As I say, Larnaca played quite well. Like, I'm not going to be disrespectful to them. I think they actually did play quite well. They played well. Essentially, they did cause us some problems. They did pressure us. So I think they deserve some credit. What will be interesting is how they adapt to a much wider pitch, because obviously it is a much wider pitch. I think we're only going to have just about 30,000 fans. We're not going to have a full sellout. So it is going to be quieter than what we normally have, which, to be fair, this season hasn't been particularly loud. So it's going to be different surroundings from. You don't know how they're going to take it. I know some of them have played in obviously La Liga and so on, so a big stadium isn't necessarily, awe-inspiring to them. But again, the players themselves it's going to be completely different, much wider pitches. So they could tire earlier because they are, again, an aging squad. So there's every chance that we keep the ball well and we start to move them around, especially by coming about the 60th, 70th minute. We could really see some gaps. And I think we will create in the first half. It's just we have to, again, like the last one, be very sensible in possession, make sure that we are doing the right things, like dropping off the centre backs to kind of create space, players running in behind. If we implement some of the stuff we did against Villa, we can be successful. Obviously, we need better communication on certain other areas, and we need to have better accuracy than we did.
Yeah, I think one thing I would expect us to have in this game is more possession. We haven't seen it as much in the Premier League this season. We've been one of the lowest teams in terms of possession. There's not really an excuse to not have possession in this match. I know even in the away fixture, I feel like it was pretty 50-50 to possession. Maybe they even edged it. So we need to show our authority in a certain way and play with the control of the match. We don't want to sit deep and try and hit them on the counter just because we're 2-0 up. Just play with the control that we have with our players. If we play with Rice, Lanzini, Paqueta in midfield, if you have Fornals inside, and Scamacca linking up with those, there's no reason why we can't, retain possession, especially with what you mentioned, which is a really good point. The pitch is a big difference because that pitch will seem massive to them in comparison to what they normally play on. Obviously, the temperatures will be lower, so they'll probably the fatigue element is hard to kind of see which way it would go. But obviously, they're going to tire because it's a much bigger pitch, and we'll have the personnel to change it a lot more than they will if we need to. So, yeah, I think I just want to see a controlled performance in terms of possession. I want to see us create chances from breaking them down. I don't want it to be counter-attacking. I don't want it to be where they're leaving spaces from exploiting to try and score. I want to see us break down a team because we haven't seen it enough under Moyes, and it might give the players a bit more confidence going into the Premier League when we go up against the Southampton that we'll maybe sit a bit deeper as well, and we need to try and break them down. And we haven't seen that enough under Moyes this season.
Yeah, I totally agree, mate. I think the things that we've got to be aware of is that Larnaca will look to get down our flanks. They will look to get the ball into the area. So again, we have to be switched on. We have to be alert at those kind of phases of play. They are a good team at set pieces. So again, we need to be switched on. So we can't be giving away silly, sloppy fouls. And as you said, it has to be a professional performance, one where we are taking due care and attention of the ball. There's no need for us to be hell for leather. In the last game, I think we had 54% possession. There's no reason why we shouldn't be having that, if not more. Yeah. I haven't necessarily got a problem if we kill them on the counter attacks, because I think it is a game where they're going to attack us. But I don't want us to sit deep and to essentially bring them onto us and ask them to do that, because if they do score, it gives them something to go for. Yeah. So we want, again, as you say, we need to be professional. We need to make sure that we stifle them. I think we need to show a lot more intensity than we did in the first game. I think we were just, played it at a pre-season tempo. We need to play at the tempo we're going to play the Southampton game, in my opinion. Essentially, He needs to be saying that you need to treat this as you would the Southampton game. I need to see nothing but 100% application and energy. If you only last 60 minutes, some of you, that is fine. Just run for 60 minutes as hard as you can. Show me what you can do when I need you to be essentially playing as if your back is against the wall. If you want the players to be in a mindset where you want them to go out and really go for a team, and I know it's stupid, but just say to them, look, the 2-0 is against us. We're not 2-0 up, we're 2-0 down. I need you to go out there and treat this game like we're 2-0 down. I need you to go out and chase the game, and I need you to go and go get those goals.
Yeah, I think it's just a classic thing of, even at Sunday League, when you score and you hear the team going, it's 0-0. You keep going, you play the same way. You don't be affected by the scoreline. Yeah, I think that's a good point as well. Don't go into it thinking we're 2-0 up, we're cruising, we'll hit them on the break and try and get a goal. Just control the match, try and break them down as if it's 0-0. And if this is a big game to get to a quarterfinal of European competition, and be patient, but don't overdo it, but be patient and be more controlled in what you're doing in terms of when you have the ball. But yeah, I think it's a big game in terms of what we can see from a 4-3, if it is a 4-3-3, in terms of the personnel we put on and how we can kind of break a team down, albeit a different opposition to a Premier League one, but just the same application and, like you mentioned, the same attitude would be great to see. But yeah, we've kind of all of that considered, Mike. How are you feeling for it? Are you confident? What's your gut saying?
One of the games I am confident for, Frankie, to be perfectly honest. I think really, 2-3-0 I don't think that they will not. I think they'll give it a go as they did in the last one. I do think they're an honest club, and they are not going to want to be just coming here and sitting back and just being 11 blokes on the pitch who get knocked around.
Yeah,
they are going to give it some. Probably what we do need is them to score early for us to maybe go for it a bit and to make the game a bit more entertaining. But quite frankly, I don't want that.
no.
So I hope it's a 2-0 victory. I think it could be 3-0. The main thing I want to see is us actually inject some pace into our passing to press, a lot better as a unit as opposed to individuals. I just want to see a bit of a team performance rather than one or two individuals or maybe playing the rest are going through the motions. I want to see a team performance and not just the one or two guys playing in fits and spats, and that sees us through.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I was gonna say 3-0. So we're kind of along the same lines. I definitely don't want to concede early. I could get your point, but no, I just don't need that on a Thursday night. Just get through to the quarterfinals and we can relax and have a nice.
I'm going to be there, so I'd rather not. I'd rather they didn't score. I'd rather be sitting there, lounging in my chair, occasionally shouting and screaming when it's needed. Exactly. That's what I want. I want a nice genteel Thursday night, and then get through to the next round where we're going to play against obviously a much tougher opposition and where we're going to have to play a proper football club in this competition. Again, I know it sounds harsh to Larnaca because they are a proper football club. What I mean is one that is of a level where they're competing in one of the top
favourites
leagues and one that feasibly could win the competition itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's. I think this is just this game provides us a platform in terms of attitude, in terms of a bit more confidence going into that Premier League match, and also just giving some personnel some minutes that haven't had it. The likes of Cornet and Scamacca are really important. They get on the pitch on Thursday night. So we'll see what Moyes does. Hopefully we get the win, and hopefully we do go through to the quarterfinal, which would be really good to get to a quarterfinal of a European competition again. So there's no doubt in that, and hopefully we'll be on it, and there'll be that application that we want to see, and we show a bit more control in the match. But let us know what you guys think in the comments. Are you confident? I know it's hard to be at the moment, but maybe there's a few of you out there that are thinking 5 or 6. But we're just going to stick with 2 or 3-0 for now because we're not going to get ahead of ourselves. But yeah, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to follow us over on Twitter at Babbling Irons if you haven't already. Leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and Mike, one thing left to say.
Come on, you irons.